Welcome to Analytic Basics, Reports, and Dashboards. Speaking today, I'm Debbie Beatty from Salesforce.com. We also have Julia Napolitano. She's from Manpower. We have Matt Evans from Extra Space Storage, and we have Shaj Vijay, also from Salesforce. So before I get into any content, I have to mention our safe harbor statement, of course. This essentially says that if I make any forward-looking statements on any products that aren't yet released, you should not make any purchasing decisions based upon that. So before I jump into this, what did everybody think of Mark's announcement today on the new report builder? Pretty cool stuff? And so unfortunately, we're not covering that today. That is coming in a future release. But a lot of the stuff we are talking about today is very good foundation so that when that is released, you can take full advantage of it, and you already know best practices. So that'll be great when it comes out. So a little bit about our agenda today. First, we're going to start with an introduction to reports and dashboards, just an overview of why you should use them, why they're important. Next, we're going to do laying the foundation with reports. Following that, we're going to talk about dashboards, creating, updating, and maintaining dashboards. And then tips, tricks, and some of the latest features that we just released in our Winter 10 release. And then we're going to do some question and answers. So reports and dashboards are critical to keep you driving to success. One of my favorite dashboard analogies is that you wouldn't drive your car without watching how fast you're going, looking how much fuel you have. Likewise, you really shouldn't run your CRM implementation without looking at how fast you're going and where you might need to make some adjustments to keep you on the right track and to make sure that you're getting you're achieving the results you were looking to achieve when you started out. So a couple of definitions that are important to understand when you go about trying to create your reports and dashboards. These are going to be used throughout the presentation, so I thought I'd set the baseline here up front. First is business objectives. Business objectives are an organization's tangible, precise intentions that outline the measurement of their success for a given time period. So the key words there are intentions, measurement, and a given time period. So those have to be framed within a given time period. Next are your key performance indicators, or KPIs. KPIs are quantifiable measurements that indicate whether or not a business is making progress towards its business objectives. So for every business objective that you define, you're going to have probably multiple KPIs. So 3 to 4 KPIs per business objectives is usually standard. Next is, of course, the reports and dashboards themselves. And reports and dashboards are a mechanism used to measure your KPIs. So the process in which the reports and dashboards are built is referred to as operationalizing your objectives. So really what you're doing when you build your reports and dashboards is making sure that you're measuring every objective you set out to achieve when you initially rolled out CRM. And last is validation, which are processes put in place to ensure regular capture of KPIs to progress towards the desired agreed upon targets. So what do reports and dashboards do for you? They allow users to consume large amounts of information in a simple graphical view. As you guys use CRM longer and longer, you have thousands, hundreds of thousands of records, sometimes millions of records, and you can't synthesize that information without having good reports and dashboards to show you your totals and to really show you how you're doing in each given area. They also enable management to monitor key performance indicators company-wide. So there's that KPI word again, but you might have company-wide KPIs that you're using these dashboards to help you measure. They enable users to standardize on one common language, one version of the truth. They're great for driving specific behavior and helping understand where your sales reps, your organization might be weak in specific areas. They can really help you drive that behavior in whichever way you want to take it. And they're critical for driving executive support for Salesforce CRM. This one, I can't say that enough. If your executives aren't looking at dashboards, they're not looking at your metrics, then they're not adopting and they're not supporting your use of Salesforce. So a little bit about the mechanics of dashboards. Starting at the lowest level, you have your individual records, and as I mentioned, you might have hundreds, you might have thousands, you might have millions of records in the system. But those are your really detailed view into what's happening in your organization. As you try to roll up that great amount of data, you get to reports, and reports really help you to synthesize, to sort and organize, and to segment and summarize all of that data. But a report still has lots of lines in it, lots of data pieces. So at the very top level, you really need your dashboard to give you that graphical depiction of what you have in the reports and what your data looks like across the organization. And of course, you can have up to 20 components per page, but we'll give you some recommendations on how to do that. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Julia Napolitano with Manpower.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Debbie, for that great introduction. As Debbie said, I'm Julia Napolitano from Manpower. I'm going to start with just giving you a brief overview of what Manpower does, the 10-second spiel, so you can understand how we build our reports. We are an employment services company, so we work with companies big and small throughout the entire world to put people to work every day. We have implemented a Salesforce.com instance in our North America operations. And with that, we have about 150 users. We've rolled this out in 3 weeks, and we're actually going global. So I'm ecstatic to announce that we will be going across the globe in 84 countries with Salesforce.com. So the first thing we're going to do is walk through building our reports. That's really the foundation to building your dashboards. This is the part that you got to get right so that it looks good on the end. So we're going to start with the report builder, how it looks today. So maybe come back to this session next year, and we'll talk about the new report builder functionality. But until then, we're going to still talk about the basic report structure. So the first thing we start with is our report format. And it's really important that you develop some of these key structuring features right off the bat so that your users know what to look for and that you can, as an administrator, manage who sees which report and when. There are also a few types of reports you should know about, and that would be summary and matrix. Those are actually required for dashboards. Tabular, I think of reports as something you would see every day, just a basic list of the information in your system. Your summary and matrix reports are a little bit more advanced. You do have analytic snapshots as well. Those are available for tabular and summary reports. A little bit more complex as well, so I always start with summary. That's the easiest way you can look at your information. And then matrix reports, once you get a little bit more in-depth and familiar with the reports in the system, that's where you can see multidimensional information. So sales by revenue, by quotas, and you can see it all in different relationships. And we'll go through that in a few slides. So when you're looking at your folder structure, make sure to set up who can see what. The picture on the slide will show you at the beginning of your system, everything is open to anybody. So what has that caused? In my instance, 1,000 reports for everybody to see. Who wants to see 1,000 reports? I know my sales reps don't, so I'm going to assume yours probably don't as well. So make sure to set up that structure at the beginning. We also have the ability to summarize information using the columns to total feature. This allows you to compute sums and averages of different variables in the system. So average number of deals won in a quarter, summing up your sales won opportunity values, and then taking advantage of custom summaries. So if you have something that's applicable to your organization, add that as a custom summary formula in your report building as well. So some examples would be percent goal of quota, something very helpful for a sales organization. And then you can build that and display those fields on your reports as well. The next phase is to select your groupings. So how do we actually want to present the information? This is where you can see two different ways of looking at the information, one-dimensionally. So you can see information across the left-hand side, like sales by region. And then you can use more complex matrix reporting to see 3 dimensions on the top and 3 dimensions on the left. So this has been really helpful for us when we talk about divisions, regions, branches, and actually break down the sales organization by their geography. So that's been a big win for us. The other thing you want to do in this section or the next section is to select what to see, what columns actually show up on your report. You don't want to inundate your audience with too much information. You want them to see the really important stuff. So this is where you can pick your columns. The layout on the screen starts with parent and child relationships, so like your account and contacts. And it also starts with standard fields and then moves into custom fields. So that is a helpful way to look at your organization, and once you get used to it, you'll automatically know where certain things are. And you can select all or deselect all fields as well. I try to think of a clean report as something that's really a little bit more narrow, and you're just picking the right information. So pick your columns with the end user in mind. There are canned templates that you can take advantage of, and Matt will share a little bit about those dashboards and the reports that accompany them. So also look at the canned reports and think about, do all those fields really make sense? What does the end user want to see? And then you'll always pick the right answers. Another really important part for usability of reports is the column sequence. So what order of information are my users looking at? Do I want the close date at the end of the information, or should that be really at the beginning, right next to the amount of the opportunity? I always encourage you to add in, as administrators, the owner, as well as the ID of the records you're looking at, because even if they don't need it, you probably will. So just a good thing to think about, especially for your administrator reports. The next area we talk about is the select criteria report. Now, as I build more and more reports, this is actually the part I go to first. I kind of skip some of those other areas and I focus on this, because when you select your criteria, that's where you're really saying, whose information am I looking at? Who wants to see this? Are we talking about my information as the owner, or all the information in the system? So we all know that the records have ownership, so this helps us to use canned and kind of controlled views to say, what information should I look at? So when at all possible, take advantage of the my or all views settings, because that really helps for scalability of your reports. Another great recommendation is to use the equal sign rather than contains. Contains could open it up to a whole can of worms that your users may not want to see. So start with your equal sign and then open it up if you would need to, so you're actually finding the right information at the right report. A really important thing to take note of is to avoid custom dates. I know when I make reports, it's essential for me to use the rolling calendar, like you see here, last 60 days or last 240 days, this quarter, this year, last year, because that's the way that you can actually get your reports spread out through the entire company, and you as the administrator don't have to keep updating it every single week or every single month. It is probably the #1 issue with reports that I deal with as an administrator. My opportunity didn't show up. My sales numbers look off. My opportunity amounts are off. Well, that's because your dates are from 3 months ago. So if we can avoid that up front, take advantage of the rolling calendar. So the final part is the pretty part. It's the fun part where we take all that data and we make it realistic for the end user, which is that chart. So how can we take that information and put it into a format that's easy to view? And we can select the chart types, how the metrics are organized, and this will all influence what goes on your dashboard. So I use this as my check and balance. Did I do all the information correctly? Did I put it in the right spot? And if you did, you're going to set up your dashboards correctly. And with the last release, we have some new enhancements like new shapes. The funnel and donut have been very helpful for our organization, especially since we have a sales term as our funnel. So we actually have these new formats to use as well. And all of this is to set up for our dashboards. So our final tips are to take advantage of some of the other features within reportings, and that's to schedule and email reports. Every Monday and every Friday, we email out our reports, some of those key reports that you want to see at the beginning or the end of the week to see change over change from week to week. Take advantage of those, schedule them once, and as an administrator, forget about them because they're just going to happen anyway. You also can use the drill down feature. So within your report, and if you want to get to that nitty-gritty information, you can use the drill down to get to that, or the high-level, high details feature to go in between detailed information and the high-level overview. Also with opportunities, take advantage of the hierarchy that you've already put into the system. You already took care of security and hierarchy at the front end when you rolled out your system. Leverage that when you're doing opportunity information. Two other things you can use are the export to Excel and the printable view features. These are obviously ways to take the information out of the system. Still try to keep them in the system if you can, but if you need to take it out, those are options you have to use. And then finally, always remember to save your changes and take advantage of the Save As feature. I don't know how many times and hours I've probably saved by using the Save As, so I don't have to start my report from scratch. So in my custom folder, I have some of these basic reports that I save and just save as to make the new one for this new branch or the new operations area. So leverage those, and those will be some helpful tips to save you time when you're building your reports and setting them up for your dashboards. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Matt Evans so he can take this information and put it into the dashboards.
Thanks, Julie. Make sure for the flip phone that you get your business card in the fishbowl Debbie's going around with. So I already put about 150 of my business cards in there. Good luck. Kidding. We don't qualify for that. But I'm Matt Evans from Extra Space Storage, manager of Enterprise CRM. Extra Space Storage, we're the second largest provider of self-storage in the U.S. When I say self-storage, I do mean the non-glamorous, non-sexy garages you put your stuff in when you move from house to house. And so we have about 740 storage facilities throughout the United States. We came on Salesforce about a year ago, and that's when we became glamorous and when we became sexy. We have about 1,200 users of Salesforce with an 87% login rate. We've customized Salesforce quite a bit with a lot of custom tabs, visual force pages, and custom objects, and we're using it as an enterprise application. So not only Salesforce automation and call center, but we're using it for project management, loan tracking, purchase orders, audit, risk management, capital expenditure tracking, and our help desk. So let's talk about a little bit what Julia told you about reports, how we can take reports and the graphs you put down on paper and how we can turn those into amazing dashboards. And so really, creating and choosing the appropriate dashboard for your business need is the art and science of an effective dashboard. And so let's go in and figure out how we can take what you put on paper and get that into Salesforce. If you don't have any reports or dashboards in your application right now, if you haven't customized anything, you can do this very quickly and you can become a hero just by going to the App Exchange. On the App Exchange, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can find reports and dashboards that others have created already, and with one click of a button, you can pull those down into your Salesforce application, customize them a little bit, and have dashboards for you already built out, whether that's based on your sales pipeline, your service cases, your leads and opportunities, or from an administration side, your adoption of the system that you're paying for. So how do you go about doing that? All you have to do is go to the App Exchange and type in the search dashboards and they'll pop up. There's a couple of different types of dashboards up there. There's free dashboards that Salesforce put out there for you. There's free dashboards that other third-party providers put out there. And then there's also paid dashboards from third-party providers that interact with some of their systems as well. And so you just go to the App Exchange search, find the dashboard you want, and click Get It Now, and you can download it into your app. So that's a way to get started very quickly with it and getting dashboards in there. Now, if you're going to create your own custom dashboard and reports, I don't want to. Julie already talked about how to create the reports. I'm not going to talk about. I'm going to show you a little bit how to actually create the dashboard. But before that, I want to talk to you about the process of getting the right dashboard for you. And so. Anybody can go out and they can put a dashboard out there, but really the process of finding the right information to put out there is really the key. What you want to do is, number one and most important, you want to find out what information you need to be reporting on. These are the KPIs that Debbie introduced, the key performance indicators. And when you're talking about dashboards or reports, you really want to find those metrics that drive your business and put those out there as dashboards. So when I talk about that, you can report on anything in Salesforce. Any field you have, any report you have, you can put a dashboard out there. If I'm a sales rep and if I could pull up an opportunity report that says, show me all my opportunities by industry. Oh, that's cool. You know, I can see that half of mine are in the banking industry, a quarter are in real estate. But if my goal isn't specific to drive opportunities in one industry, that dashboard really isn't going to help me drive my business at all. And so it might be a nice to know or a cool to have, but really you want to focus the dashboards on the information that's going to drive your business or drive behavior in your organization. And that's easy to get at because your executives already do that today. They're already running your business and they know what's driving the business. And so it's talking to them and identifying what they want to see and how they want to see it and putting that information in Salesforce. After you find out what you want to see, you want to figure out how they want to see it. How do you want to summarize it? What time frames do you want? Many times I've gone to executives and said, okay, what dashboards do you want? Oh, I want a sales pipeline dashboard. Now go build it for me. Well, hold on, time out. You know, how do you want to see it? Who do you want to see it by? Is it by sales rep? Is it by stage? What time frames do you want to see it in? A good way to do that, I was sitting in a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about putting some executive dashboards out. And like many of you, the director of this department of ours had this complicated snapshot spreadsheet that pulled data in and created a huge Excel spreadsheet you scroll down in and see all the data that you'd ever want to see. And so he was pulling up that spreadsheet saying, I really want to put this in Salesforce. And as he was explaining, I said, time out, hold on. When you pull up this spreadsheet, where do your eyes go first? And he said, oh, that's easy. It goes to the totals. I said, okay, let's focus on the totals. You don't need to see the other data that's on the spreadsheet except for where your eyes go first. Then if you see a problem, of course you want to drill into the data. And only those totals, only where their eyes go first is what you want to put on the dashboard. Before you go out and create the dashboards, what I recommend is creating the reports first, just like Julia told you. On the reports, you can put charts on there that will display just like they will on the dashboard. All the dashboard is, it's a compilation of many reports in one dashboard. So you can build out those separate reports. Don't go through the hassle of building out a dashboard until you get sign-off and approval on the reports and the charts that you have there, just to save you a little bit of work. Once you get that approval from your users, if that's the information they want to see, then go out and build that dashboard and clone that dashboard and create it for different divisions or territories with the same information. But that's not the end all or be all. You want to make sure that you communicate to your end users the purpose of the dashboard, that it's not something that's just cool to look at or pretty colors, but that they know why you have the dashboard out there and what their expectations are when looking at the dashboard. It's really helpful for executives as well that they help the end users understand that they're looking at the dashboard. So if they see something on the dashboard that they feel is not right, or if they see something on the dashboard and they want to congratulate one of your end users, ask your executives or even write up the email yourself and tell your executives to forward it on to your end users saying, hey, I saw this on the dashboard and I want to let you know you're doing a great job. That will immediately tell all your other users that the executive is looking at the dashboard and they'll start to put their information in so it displays on the dashboard. I'm going to go into a demo now. I'm going to show you our org real quick to show you what some of this looks like. First off, this is the App Exchange. All I did was type in appexchange.com. I typed in the search term dashboard. I checked off free because those are the ones that you are probably going to get first. And here are the results. So you can see here's one from Salesforce.com, adoption dashboards. Here's one from another company, data quality dashboards. And all you have to do is click on the dashboard. You can read reviews about it and then click the Get It Now button and it will download into your application. So all you have to do is search reports and dashboards and then in about 5 minutes you become a hero in your organization because you've already figured out how to report on data your users are inputting. So that's what I did. Whenever I go to a new organization, I always go out and get the adoption dashboard first. Here's the adoption dashboard. After I click that button, it downloaded this information for me so I can immediately see how many users I have, are they logging in, how are they using the system, are they creating accounts, are they creating contacts, what are they doing in the system, and are they tracking it correctly? Who's on my login leaderboard? Do I have a login wall of shame that I want to show for those that are not there? And so again, you can go out and you can get this dashboard or a sales dashboard or a leads dashboard. You can click on different areas of the dashboard and customize it to your needs, and then you're set to go. You've taken all of the hard work out of it. Now, if you want to create dashboards from scratch, again, you go out and build the reports first. I have some sample reports here I want to show off. So let's say you have an agent calls today report that shows you all the calls that agents are making, because maybe the agents that are making the most calls are the agents that are selling the most as well. You want to encourage them to make the calls. And so here I have a report based on that. I've built out the chart. There's the chart, and I've gotten approval on that, so I'm going to go build out my dashboard. So what to do to build out the dashboard is you click on the dashboard tab. The hardest part about building the dashboard, I think, is finding where to create the dashboard or where to click new. There's a little link hidden up here that says go to dashboard list, and that's where you go to create brand new dashboards. You're not going to see a new button here at all. So after you click go to dashboard list, you specify what folder you want to create that in, and then there's your new dashboard button. After you create the new dashboard button, you title the dashboard. Maybe agent performance, specify how many columns you want it to be, who's going to be your running user. The running user on the dashboard is the user in Salesforce that the data is displayed on the dashboard for. And so, for example, if you put the running user as an administrator or an executive on top of your role hierarchy, everyone that looks at that dashboard will see all the data that person can see. Whereas if the running user is a sales manager in a small part of your hierarchy, anyone that sees that dashboard is only going to see the data as that person sees it. And so the running user is who you see the data as when you're creating your dashboard. You can modify the colors, put your brand around it if you want, and click Save. And now you've created a dashboard. Doesn't it look really pretty? Not yet. You got to add components to the dashboard from the different reports. All you have to do there is click the Add Component button. And that will bring up this small wizard here where you can specify what type of dashboard component you want. This is a chart. Maybe I'll call this Agent Calls today. You can put headers and footers on there. You choose the report you want to pull the information from. Agent Calls Today report. Then you choose how you want to see that. The View Chart Types is very easy to give you a sampling of how you want to see it. Maybe I want to see a bar chart of all the calls, and then I want to sort it by the value descending. So I can see all of the calls with the most calls at the top and the least calls at the bottom, and I want to show the values. And so you can get in here and mess around with your own metrics, and then just click Save, and then all of a sudden you have a dashboard report or component here. I'm going to click Wide to widen it out, and now I can see that Leslie is really my top agent today. She's the one that's making the most calls across the organization. So again, once you have the report, it's very easy to take that report and put it on the dashboard. I'm going to do this a couple more times. Maybe there's a sales funnel that I have. Maybe I don't want to specify which report. I just want to use the chart that's in the report itself. I can just click that link, and then it says, okay, whatever chart you have on the report, that's going to display on the dashboard as well. I click Save. And now I got my sales funnel on there. So again, once you have your report, it's very easy to create the dashboard. As you can see, it's not as important to know how to create the dashboard as it is to know what information to put out on the dashboard. And I'll just do that one more time. Maybe a cases by type dashboard. And I'll choose the new donut that they put out with the winter tent. Show the values, show the totals, and click Save. And then you have the donut on the dashboard as well. So that's how you create dashboards. I want to tell you a little bit about what we did at Extra Space with our dashboards. So let me jump back to the PowerPoint presentation here. So at Extra Space, we deployed Salesforce to 1,100 users in about 6 weeks. And so it was a very quick time frame. All of our users started putting the information in, but they weren't seeing any output. We didn't create reports and dashboards right away when we configured. A lot of you might have had the same problem where you said, we got to get this out quick. We'll worry about reports and dashboards after the fact. So what we did is we said, we'll just put one general dashboard out there for the whole company to see, and that will be good enough until we can think about it and figure it out. What was happening, though, is that it became useless to our store managers at their facilities because they didn't care how the company was doing overall. They cared how they were doing compared to the store that was down the street or the store that was in their district. And so we didn't consider reports and dashboards in our configuration, and our users had no way to tell, or we had no way to tell how the users were using the system except for going and looking at things like login rates. And so even though we trained them and deployed, we didn't know if they were putting in their sales opportunities. We didn't know if they were putting in their pipeline. We had one corporate dashboard, but across 1,100 users and almost 800 properties, that gave us no information. You have to consider reports and dashboards in your implementation for basically 2 reasons. One reason I just mentioned is that immediately when you roll out Salesforce and you train, if your users see the output of that data, when they input the data, they're going to be way more likely to continue to input that data because they'll see the changes right away. But the second reason, and probably the more important reason, is that you want to make sure that you're configuring Salesforce properly to get the reports out of it as you need. And so there was one instance where I was rolling out and we were worried about the reports and dashboards. We had to go back and we had to reconfigure and re-architect our Salesforce just to get the reports out of it we wanted to get out of it. And so instead of having to rework that, focus on the reports going in because that will give you the fields that you need and let you set up the architecture and the structure. So you want to get the KPIs right away, and that's what we focused on. You want to survey management and key users. Start at the top. They already have the data that they're reporting on, so figure out what that is. figure out what they're using to run the business now and how you can present that data in Salesforce. Also figure out what behavior you want to drive. And then also don't forget about your end users. Work with your end user base and figure out what they can use to make their jobs a lot easier. Apart from the KPIs and the metrics that drive business, if there's reports or dashboards you can put out there to help your end users figure out or do their job easier or more automated, make sure you bring them in as well and get a focus group. And again, map the end results analysis to the application, meaning can your current configuration support the reports and dashboards that your users want? Do you need to reconfigure and add in some fields? And so at ExtraSpace, that's exactly what we did. After the fact, after we realized we weren't getting anything out of our Salesforce implementation just because we didn't have visibility to the data they were putting in, we said, okay, time out. Let's put together a reporting committee. And we created this reporting committee. We picked somebody that wasn't a Salesforce admin. We picked a business user as the head of the committee. And we got representation from the top of the organization, our directors. We got representation from the bottom of the organization, who were our facility managers. And then we got people in between, the district managers, the division managers, et cetera. And what we did is we identified what they wanted to see. We had weekly meetings where we went back to them with our results on these dashboards, got their approval on them, iterated the dashboard, and basically created this template on what we wanted our end users to see. And then because of all of our facilities, we had to push out these dashboards in a way that each facility could see their own data. And to do that, we had to create a lot of copies of this template that we had. And so we put together a dashboard day. And to kind of show you the flexibility and scalability of Salesforce, we were able to take 9 other individuals who had never created a report or a dashboard in Salesforce in their life. And with about a half hour of training, some yummy incentives of some virtual pizza, we were able to create 350 dashboard components across 60 dashboards in about 4 hours' time. And so almost instantly, our end users had no data output to a full dashboard that told them what they wanted to see. Now, let me go back to our Salesforce and show you the dashboards we put together. Our facilities, our 800 facilities, are split up into districts and divisions. That's the hierarchy they roll up to, and so we wanted to create dashboards that way. If I scroll down here, as you can see, we have a naming convention for all of our dashboards, and I can look and I can say, okay, show me the dashboards for Division 9610, and within the districts, here are the KPI dashboards. And then show me for the next division and the next division and the global, et cetera. And as I click on one of these, you'll see the metrics that we decided as a company we needed to put out there to drive our business. Here's average callback time, for example. How long has it taken our store managers to call back leads that they get on the website or that they get through our call center? Number of store walk-ins are we tracking? What's their conversion rate? Are we getting accurate emails for marketing down the road? As Debbie said, you can put up to 20 dashboard components on a single dashboard, 20 different graphs or metrics. We decided on 7. Because when you try to roll out a dashboard with 20 metrics, your end users are going to have no idea where to go or what's most important. And so I'd say, 3 to 5. We put 7 on there because these 3 center ones are basically the same. They're just conversions looking at different ways of looking at the data. And so figure out the top things and then build on that once your users get used to the dashboard. Any one of these dashboards you can click on to drill in to see the data that's backing it up. Just with that click of a button, you can say, oh, this person's calling them back in 12 minutes. How come it's taking them 12 minutes to call them back? And you can see the detail just with a few clicks. And so that's really the power of dashboards is your executives don't just get a paper with some graphs on it. They can look at it from a micro view, but with just a couple of clicks of the button, they can drill down and see the micro view of what they're doing individually. When we rolled out these dashboards, we found a phenomenal thing happen almost immediately. We were on Salesforce for about 3 months before we finally got this implemented and out there. And when we rolled it out and we looked at these dashboards, our average callback time across the company was sitting at about 230 minutes. And we said, whoa, we know it's way less than that. How come the data is not telling us that? But what we saw is over the course of about 1 week, that dropped from 230 minutes down to about 20 minutes across the organization, only because they had visibility into how they were doing. Not only that, they had visibility on how they were doing against their peers. Same thing happened with store walk-ins. How many people were walking into our facility? When we rolled this out, it was sitting between 1 and 3 on average per facility, and now you can see where it's sitting now. So just by putting out the dashboards, we're capturing on average thousands of more customer data per month only because we have the dashboards there, where before they just weren't logging that information unless they actually reserved a unit from us. And so we took this dashboard, we took these templates, and we have it on the district, so you can go look at any district, and you see the same exact dashboard, only with different data. Or we have it across the division as well, where you see it now not rolled up by specific facility, but you see it rolled up by specific district. And so all the district averages are rolled up, but also we created a global one as well. So we can see how it rolls up across the whole company as a whole. And so just in a matter of hours, again, we were able to take all of this data, the template, use the clone button in Salesforce, clone it over, and put the dashboard out. So now we have a ton of dashboards out there. And you guys know what happened? About 2 months after we rolled this out, our executives came back and said, okay, we need to change this on the dashboard. And I was like, oh, man. But what we ended up doing for changes like this is we have unlimited edition of Salesforce, which comes with Premier Support with admin. And so we were able to take this dashboard and we were able to give that to Premier Support and say, hey, we want to make this change across all these dashboards. And they took that, and within a week, without any time or resources on our end, they took that and they're able to push out those changes for us and get back to us. And so you're able to leverage Salesforce to help you make changes if you have Premier Support with admin, or you're able to use third parties to do that, or you can get a group of you together, get some pizza, and get some motivation, and do a dashboard day yourself to make those changes. So with that, I'm going to turn the time over now to Shaj Vijay from Salesforce. And he's going to wrap it up with a few tips and tricks for us.
Thanks, Matt. Good virtual pizza there. What was that? Pepperoni, Mediterranean? Oh, okay. Right on. Hi, everyone. So as Matt mentioned, my name is Shaj Vijay, and I'm an account specialist with the Premier Support Organization within Salesforce.com. And what I do every day is work with clients like yourselves, all sizes, all different types of maturity in terms of analytics, spread out globally with different analytic strategies. As a team, as Matt mentioned, Premier Support can also help out with reports and dashboards and really taking away some of that administrative overhead from you guys. So that's my shameless plug. But moving on, so talking about reports and dashboards. Now, over the last few years working with clients, there are a lot of common themes. There have been some recurring themes along what clients fail to do, what they miss out when creating reports and dashboards, things they tend to overlook, best practices. So those are some of the things I wanted to cover in the next 7 to 8 minutes. And then we'll jump into the more recent enhancements with analytics in the last release with Winter 10. So you may think reports and dashboards is kind of around the creation, the deployment, but I've just broken it down across different phases there, starting with planning, so thinking about what to do before actually going in and creating these reports and dashboards, then going down mechanics along creation, deployment, and then we'll talk about maintenance. So starting out with planning. Things you definitely want to keep in mind is which users you want to keep as champions from the analytics standpoint across your different lines of business. So permissions on the user profiles, like manage dashboards, these are pretty powerful. Give people the ability to create, manage, maintain their own dashboards and reports. So it's important earlier on in the game to identify who those individuals are and kind of empowering them with that ability to go in and create reports and dashboards as they want and tweak the existing components for their users. So really identifying the champions. Then folder structure. Matt and Julie have already talked about this. Very important is thinking about how you sort of organize your dashboards and folders, breaking them up into different folder structures, maybe across lines of business, territories, districts, however you want to align them. Even using numberings just so that it's more readable. Although with a more recent release, you can search for dashboards, and that pulls up phrases in both the folder names and the actual reports or dashboard pages themselves. So that's folder structure. Another thing to keep in mind with folder structure is you can really control who has access to what reports or what dashboards. So you set up a folder and you kind of define, okay, I just want to give it to these profiles or these roles and these groups of users, and that way you kind of restrict who has access to what reports and dashboards. So that's where folders really help out. Creating reports and dashboards. So you want to start out with doing that in your personal folders first before actually deploying them out into your, say, unfiled or your more categorized folder structure there, just so that you don't go over the pains of, coming across 200 dashboards all of a sudden and your users figuring out what they're for. So create them in your personal folders before you deploy them across the more public folders. Focusing on KPIs, so just reiterating points that Matt and Julie have mentioned, but thinking about those key objectives like, what's your pipeline value looking like? What are your adoption rates for this month? What are your number of cases open to close? Really thinking about what it is that people are measured on, what it is that gets them excited to logging into Salesforce and looking at the different metrics, what your management's thinking about. So really focusing on the KPIs will help kind of eliminate redundancy when creating reports and dashboards. Socializing plans, really having that open channel of communication with your users, like what Matt did, having that sort of reporting committee, or I know clients who have had advisory councils, where they bring in different levels of end users from their sales organizations and figuring out, okay, so what is it you want with reports now? What can be changed? What can be modified? What is it that we can get rid of? So that really helps with the whole planning part of it, and also partly do the maintenance as well. Going into the creation piece, now I could talk for hours about best practice along creation. These are just some of the ones that are more recurring themes that I see every day. So show of hands here, how many people have actually used the App Exchange and downloaded some of those free dashboards? Fantastic, that's almost half the audience. But for the rest of you, I mean, as they've mentioned, we've got free canned dashboards there with some of the components and metrics that you want to think about. For example, you've got your opportunity trending, lead management dashboards, adoption, all types of them, which have already come pre-packaged with different components. Test drive it, get it now. It's a good way to start creating dashboards. Also, cloning existing dashboards, as opposed to creating them from scratch, can really help. When naming reports, make use of report descriptions. So keeping them pretty strategic and in the form of questions. For example, how many opportunities have we closed in this month? What's my monthly pipeline looking like? How many cases has this line of business opened? So having your report naming, not naming convention, but more the description part being filled out as questions can really help. Making sure underlying reports accessible to the running user. So as Matt mentioned, running user defines and really drives what data people see on the dashboards. So making sure this running user has access to the underlying reports can really help with readability, make sure no errors pop up on the dashboards. Summary reports, best place to start when making reports. They feed analytic snapshots, they feed dashboards pretty well, so, I mean, and you can choose not to summarize on reports if you want. But going down the summary reports, good place to start out. On the criteria section of reports, using rolling calendars, very important. Helps keep reports up to date and current, and it's pretty flexible. You can also go to help and training and search on date criteria, and it'll show you the different variations of these kind of criteria fields you can use, like last 60 days, last 540 days, last 3 quarters, last 2 months, whatever that may be. But that really helps with keeping reports up to date. Scheduling feature. Things people, my clients, overlook from time to time, maybe partly because of the reason that it's kind of submerged within the Run Report button. So you kind of click on the arrow there right next to Run Report, if I can get the mouse over. Right there, and that's where you see Run Report Now versus Schedule Runs. What scheduling does, be it for dashboards or reports, is give you the ability to determine when you want those reports to run and also emailed out to certain individuals. Maybe people who are not logging into Salesforce, maybe certain roles that you want to see what your data, what your dashboards are looking like for that week or that month. So using the scheduling feature, quick win. From the deployment perspective, so, sorry. All right. With reports, so keep in mind you can use the My Team filters as well, as opposed to my records. You can see what records are owned by your team. Kind of helps break down and determine that kind of visibility on the report. The role hierarchy, something people overlook from time to time. So within opportunity reports, you have the ability to, on the top of opportunity reports, when you run them, you see the role hierarchy. So you can actually click on that, drill down to the specific individual's role hierarchy, and that kind of shrinks the records. And you can save that state before you share that report with different users. So keep that in mind. One thing people, again, tend to overlook is the fact that dashboards can be brought onto the home page and your top 3 components on the specified dashboard, those are the ones that appear. So down there you see marketing, sales, and support. Those are the top 3 components on one specific dashboard page. So think about what you want on the top of your dashboard page that may be useful for others when it comes time to share that dashboard page on home pages. Readability. So as Matt mentioned, I'm just recapping. You can do 20 components per dashboard, but that can really clutter the look, especially if you're doing chart-type components. So think about really the top 6, 8, 10 components that you want there. You don't want people scrolling down. You still want to keep readability pretty strong. From a maintenance point of view, so the one thing with gauges I find is when you have a lot of gauges across your organization, different dashboard pages, kind of where the different thresholds fall. So where does the red finish? Where does the yellow start? Where does the green start? What's your low, medium, and high stages? So kind of standardizing those breakpoints have helped clients a lot just in terms of readability so that, no one's falling in the red zone when on another dashboard they're on the green. So really standardizing that can help. From a maintenance point of view, you can run reports on reports to see when a report was run last. So based on your own parameters, maybe something that's not run for 6 months or a year, you may want to recycle, you might want to delete, you might want to find out why, maybe it's not useful anymore. So running reports on reports help, and then having that folder where you kind of maintain a repository of reports that you may want to clean up from time to time. Driving data quality, something pretty specific that you can use with reports and dashboards. So things like, give me a contact that does not have an email on there, or an opportunity where a contact role is not filled out, or certain fields not filled out. And if those are metrics that you want to keep on top, you want to stay on top of from a data quality standpoint, having that on a dashboard can really remind you of who's not kind of adhering to those rules and kind of going after them. Or reports for that matter, so that you can stay on top of the data quality issue. Saving changes. How many times do people run a situation where you're on a report, you've kind of configured it, customized it to get the data you want, you don't save it, and it's gone? Small thing, but it's happened to me a lot. So save your changes, do a save as, overwrite the report, but otherwise the changes don't persist. So that's all I had with just general best practices around reports and dashboards. I'm free to stick around after the session to answer more. But jumping now, changing gears and moving into recent enhancements with Winter 10 that came out about a month and a half ago. So from the analytics standpoint, on reports, you can do combination charts now, meaning you can have a second value pop up on your charts, not just one, or you can have a second axis altogether on your reporting itself. Where you do this is in your report select criteria stage, which is the last stage in the reporting wizard. What happens under the hood down there is you kind of say, select a combination chart, and then you define, do you want to have a line or a bar, and then you pick which value it is. It shows up side by side. Some good use cases in this scenario is quota versus closed business, total amount of opportunities versus expected revenue, number of cases closed versus opened per rep. So having that side-by-side can really help in readability and analyzing data from time to time. So that's combination charts. Moving on to drill downs and hover details. So let me start with the second one, hover details. So what this is, so sort of what preluded this was initially we had show values where it actually showed values on the bars. Now you can hover on these graphs, pies, donuts, funnels, lines, bars, whatever it may be, and you'll actually see the values for each of the different segments and the percentages they take up. Now, what drill down features do is, on the pie chart there, for example, if you look at that light blue section, Sioux Market, if I clicked on that, it would actually take me to a filtered down version of the report to just show me Sioux Market's records. So that's what kind of happens when you click on that portion of the graph. That's drilled down to filtered reports. Going to the last enhancement that I want to talk about that's really, that was a big request from our customers was kind of having the consistency of coloring for the same stages for pick list values on components. So how many times have you encountered where you're seeing the same stage take on a different color in different dashboard components? Well, now what you can do is sort of standardize that. The thing, though, is to keep in mind, under the hood, what happens is this is not set from a reporting standpoint. It's actually set where the field is defined. So opportunity stage pick list values over there. Right on the right, you see chart colors. You pull that down, and you can say assign colors to these different stages or pick them dynamically. The end result is when you have your different components, closed lost is red on all of them, and they maintain the same coloring consistency. That's all I had from Winter 10 enhancements. Now, these are some of the other reporting and dashboard sessions you may want to make it out to. Definitely recommend going to some of them. And yeah, please do go online and complete an online survey. Tell us what you think, what your feedback was. But before I open it up for Q&A, on behalf of the speakers, just want to thank you all for coming by, and stick around for the draw. So I think we have mics on either side. If you want to go up and just ask questions, feel free to take them.
One more thing, this presentation will be online along with all the other presentations, so if you didn't get everything written down, then feel free to reference it following the conference. Yep, question? No. That's a great question. Let's chat after this session. Maybe we'll get your card and we can follow up with you. But we might need to hear a little bit more specifics. But he was asking whether we can download the information into an Excel spreadsheet into columns instead of rows. So we might need to hear the use case a little bit. But you guys, of course, all know that you can download all reports into Excel spreadsheets. It's a permission that you give users, and you want to make sure that you only give it to users who you want to give that permission to.
Well, one way you can see the data in columns is by using the matrix report. Even if you don't have two variables, you can have a single variable on one area and see it in columns. And then instead of exporting it to Excel, you can do the page, the printable view. Thank you, and that will show you it in columns in an Excel spreadsheet. So that's one way to do it. Any other questions at all?
Back here.
Does emailing reports slow down the performance or no?
I'm happy to say it does not at all. We would have a big problem if everybody who emailed reports slowed down performance, because we have to maintain our performance standards across the entire Salesforce database, so it does not. Although there is a limit to how many reports you can email, so I believe it's 1 an hour or 2 an hour, depending on what edition you're on. Any other questions? Okay, well, maybe we'll go ahead with the drawing so we can let you all go. More cards? Okay, I'll have Shaj run down and get them. Any questions while we're waiting for a few more cards? More questions?
With the dashboards, you had created multiple dashboards for each rep. Couldn't you have dynamically, I'm very new to Salesforce, but isn't there a feature to dynamically filter which rep you want to view the dashboard for, and would the dashboard refresh for that rep?
Yeah, that's one thing you can do. So the question was, we were using filters on our dashboards for each of our districts. You could do that by running user on the dashboard as well. We decided to use filters because we're a public read-write, and we gave visibility to all users, all data. And so if I wanted to show a dashboard by one individual user, he would see everything anyway. And so that's why we didn't use the running user on the dashboard. We used actual filters by the districts we were displaying that way, because everyone can see. We have a very transparent org. If you do have a private setting on the data you're reporting on, you can have one report, many dashboards off of that report, and have a different running user on each dashboard, and it will automatically filter it down based on the data that user can see. Good question.
Yeah, and one more point. I have heard that there may be some enhancements coming to the fact that you have to clone dashboards to set them as different running users. There's some enhancements coming to that. So in the future, you will have to create less dashboards than you currently do today to provide dashboards visibility by region or by role. Safe harbor.